everyone. It's so nice to have you to Recovery in Action in 2017. I want to wish everyone a happy and blessed new year. We look forward to everything that's upcoming in the community, everything that is going on, everything that's going to be encouraging. There's so many things happening around our community, and we just want everyone to just know that you're in our thoughts, you're in our prayers. And I just want to encourage everyone to know that things are still on the move in Fayette County and Connersville and everything that we do. And we just want you to trust and know that prayers and blessings go out to each and every one of you. I know everyone has made New Year's resolutions. If you don't keep them, don't be discouraged. Just start again. But I just am so thankful that I have this opportunity to come into your homes and just to wish everyone a very blessed new year. And I hope everyone's Christmas went great. Mine and my family's and the House of Ruth were wonderful. So many people in the community just stepped up and helped so many of the ladies and their children at the house. And the House of Ruth is an 18-month program that helps women in recovery, helps get them back on their feet, helps give them a fresh start in life. And it is an 18-month program, and I am the executive director. And I love the women there. I love helping women in the community, and that is my passion. That is my goal. And this year, I'm just looking forward to new and exciting areas that we're expanding, that we're helping more in the community. And anyone that wants to get involved, you're welcome to call me at any time at the House of Ruth. And that phone number is 825-3333. And any fundraising ideas, anything that you have that would help benefit the women in the community, we are more than glad to hear from you. We really appreciate everything that you do, everyone that helps, every financial contribution. We receive clothing, food, anything like that it's just a tremendous encouragement to the ladies of the house. And I just want you to know how much we appreciate you. Now, today, I would like to introduce to you a really good friend of mine that I have came to know and that is doing great and big things in the community. And I would like to introduce to you today Charmin Gabbard. Welcome, Charmin.
Thank you for having me.
Oh, it's so good to have you. And what we're going to talk about today is things in Charmin's life that has give her the passion and the desire to help ladies, men, children, families in recovery. And I'd like to start out, just tell us a little bit about what got you started in this, maybe a little bit about yourself, how what drives you to help people.
Mm-hmm. Well, I am a grateful recovering alcoholic and drug addict myself. Early on in my life, I learned very young that we had lots of things in my childhood that we didn't talk about. And I was born to a mom that was a gambling addict and a father that was an untreated alcoholic. So there was lots of turmoil in my childhood. And early on, I was molested by a cousin. And from that was one of the biggest secrets that I had kept in my life. And I think for me, the fear of telling my parents what had happened, afraid of the repercussion that I feared that, would be given to me. I was afraid that my dad would be mad at me for what had happened to me because everyday life was just turmoil. There was lots of physical and mental abuse, and stemming from the issues that my parents had as adults. So I had lots of insecurities, lots of secrets, lots of things that we just didn't talk about in our family. We would never talk about the violence, the beatings that went on, and I remember seeing my mom with lots of black eyes, broken fingers, just things from her own addictions that it happened, and it was just swept under the rug. So as I got on older in age, we were very poor growing up, and I had many addictions. I started out with a shoplifting addiction, and then it turned into a eating disorder, and then in my early teenage years, drug and alcohol addiction. And this was just life for me. This was one addiction right after another. And growing up believing that the things that my parents would say to me out of anger, things like, you're no good, you'll never amount to anything, the mental and emotional abuse, I believed those things. So for many years in my life, I was always chasing something. I never felt good enough as an individual. I always felt like I was that worthless person. And I ended up being, no good, never amount to anything, drug addict, liar, thief. I became all those things that I believed about myself. And so for many years, I struggled in and out of incarceration due to drinking and driving, shoplifting, just one thing right after another. Never looking at myself, always looking at the things that had been done to me and done around me, the things that had happened in my life. And it wasn't until I was later in life, in my late 30s, that I had an opportunity, and it was a blessing. I ended up in prison, and I had an opportunity to work with a mentor for 36 weeks and working the steps, the 12 steps of AA. And what I learned during that time was to set aside what others had done to me, the things that had happened to me in my life, and to take a look at myself. And it was an inventory, a spiritual inventory. And I didn't really have a relationship with God. I always felt like God didn't apply to our life as kids growing up. I remember lots of childhood prayers that went unanswered, and I just felt like He didn't apply to my life. And so I had a resentment against God because I didn't understand how, like other families, the way other families looked, I tried to match that with the way I felt. So their outward appearance, I wanted to feel that way inwardly. And so it just was, everyday life running on self-will and me trying to control things in my own life, which clearly ended up in a mess for many years.
Yeah.
And as I started working on this inventory, and I started learning acceptance and forgiveness, and today I realize God used many things in my life and many people and my children in many different ways to get my attention. However, I was running all on me, and I was so selfish in my addiction that I couldn't see past my own inward pain. And the emotional pain that I had inside was greater than the fear of dying from the drugs that I was doing. And
isn't that amazing how that runs our life? Because of that emotional pain, we would rather medicate that than to deal with it. And that's the case in so many people with addiction that I have found.
it was, I wasn't afraid to die, I was afraid to live.
To live, exactly.
I just hated everything about myself. I hated the person that I was, like all of everything that I would see in the mirror, and then the person that I was, the guilt and the shame was so great. Like, I didn't understand guilt and shame. All I understood was shame, and I thought I was a bad person. Everything about me, and some of the things that I've done in my life was horrible, and I was guilty of many things. But today I realize the difference between guilt and shame. I did bad, but I'm not bad. And today I realize that, we're all perfectly imperfect, just the way God made us. So when I ended up going to jail in Liberty, Indiana, and I'm so thankful for that night that I went to jail. I call it the beginning of the end of my madness. But at 36 years old, I ended up on heroin, and it completely, like, out of all the drugs I've ever done in my life, it was the most physically addicting drug. And there's many things that happened to me as a result of my drug use in my life. I was raped as a teenager, and that was another secret that I had kept in. It was just more and more things. The choice that I made to start using early in life ended up resulting in many things happening to me. I made the decision, but what I know today as understanding like the disease of addiction, after I made that first decision to use, then it was a loss of control. And
Absolutely.
There was never enough. And it was just a spiral. At first it was like an uphill climb, always wanting more and more and more. And then it did ease the pain, and there was an escape that I did feel like in the beginning of using, and then it just became a way of life. And the more drugs I did, the more guilt and the more shame. So, and then I have 2 children that I've put through a lot. And I used to, I had a lot of justifications. As long as my boys were taken care of, and as long as I was that mother that was home at night getting them off to school, I used that as an excuse. But the reality of it was I did suck as a mother, and I know that. And I would never admit that before due to the guilt. Like, I justified and I rationalized and I used those excuses like, I'm not as bad as that person, or my addiction wasn't as bad as someone else's. But I know today that was just all excuses. And so I like to think now, when I lost all of my excuses, I found all my reasons.
Yes.
And
That's a good saying.
So what happened to me was, as I'm working this inventory, and I didn't know what my relationship was. I believed that there was a God. I always believed that there was a God. I just didn't know how God fit into my life. And as I started working the steps of AA, and they call it higher power, and so I knew there was something, and I wanted to believe in something greater than myself because I was tired. I was so tired. I was at the point of suicide. Like, I didn't want to live anymore. I couldn't be a mom to my children. I hurt everyone in my life that loved me, and I didn't love me. I didn't think that I had any value, and I didn't see my life as being any different ever. And thankfully that God had a little more pull on me than the devil.
Absolutely.
And so as I was working this inventory in this 4th step, the 3rd step was turn my will and my life over to the care of God as I understood Him. And so I prayed this prayer every day. And then I started praying for God to show me the truth in my life, because I carried guilt around for not being able to help my mom. I wanted the beatings to stop, but I couldn't. And I remember just standing there screaming and crying, and I couldn't help her. But I carried guilt for that. And I carried guilt for a lot of things. And I covered up, there was a lot of things that I covered up for my mom as a child too, because I didn't want, all I saw was my mom's side as far as getting beat. I didn't understand the other side of my dad working daylight to dark to better us. And I just wanted all that to stop. So I became my mom's enabler at a very young age. And so the cycle of addiction, the cycle of abuse, it carries on, because
Yes, it does.
I learned my parenting skills from my parents, and as much as I didn't want to be like them as a younger parent, I became the same as my parents. And today I'm very grateful for that inventory that I done, because I learned a different way to be, and I learned who I wasn't. And God showed up in my life, and He revealed Himself to me during that time. And so I started looking at my own self, and I started looking where I was selfish, and I was self-seeking, and I was dishonest. And today I realize that my parents were the best parents they knew how to be.
Exactly.
And I forgive them, and I wholeheartedly forgive them. We have the best relationship that I could ask for. And sometimes, like, I've realized that not everyone always gets better. And I feel like I'm the fortunate one to have been taken out of the situation, to be given the gift of incarceration, because it saved my life.
Absolutely.
And God placed people in my life during that time, one right after another, to help me become the person that I am today. And He's never stopped. But every day when I wake up, I pray for God to keep me sober one more day, to continue working in my life, and to open doors that some people think, what I know is, even though the doors have been shut by man, God can open those doors.
Absolutely.
And they have been opened for me.
And He can open them wide open.
Absolutely.
He can sling them open, that's for sure.
Yes, absolutely.
And He is doing that. I mean, because you're doing so many things now. And you said a key point there when you were talking about, you was your mom's biggest enabler. And, children know what they're taught. The Bible even says, train a child in the way they should go. When they get old, they won't depart. But lots of times we don't realize what we are training our children to do. And I'm the same way with my children. I mean, I have apologized to my children for the life, the lifestyle that I led in front of them before, that I met, Jesus Christ in my life. I'm the same way. But you can't undo your past. But like you said, he can reveal such a future, and he can open doors and make things, just like your children. Yes, you can't change how you were, but you can change today and the rest of your life. And I always use the saying, you're the author of your own book now. Now write it the way you want your life to be. And with God's help, it's always better. Always better.
One of my favorite sayings now is, I can't, but with God I can.
Yeah.
And I know that. And I know that I was fortunate enough to be in the middle of my inventory, and I was on a treadmill in prison, and the song Amazing Grace came on, and I was filled with the Holy Spirit. Mm-hmm. It is the most amazing, it was the most amazing thing that's ever happened to me in my life. But during that song, I heard the words, "You've been set free." And I knew without a doubt that day that my addiction was taken from me. Mm-hmm. And I can honestly say that through surrender, every day I surrender my life to God, because I know that I cannot do this. Right. And without him, I'm just a lost heroin addict out there, hopeless. I was hopeless. Mm-hmm. And I surrendered my life to him. I surrendered it all. The past, everything I give to him. And it doesn't make what I did or what happened to me in my life right. But all I get to do today is be the best mom that I can every single day for my kids. I don't enable. I give them structure. I give them guidance. And where I owe amends, I make them. When the opportunity presents itself to people that I've harmed in my life, I make those amends. But it's taken a lot of work, self-forgiveness, acceptance of the way things were, and to know that, if every parent had a do-over, they would.
Oh, absolutely.
We don't get it.
Even not in addiction.
Right.
I mean, people that just live everyday, normal lives that they call it. I mean, it don't have to be an addiction. I mean, we all make mistakes and we all make bad choices at some point. Yep. And just knowing that we have the opportunity to make amends, like you said. I love that inventory, the inventory side of it, because sometimes people don't take the time to do an inventory, and we can't blame everyone else for everything that's happened in our life. We have to get out of victim mentality and say, hey, listen, I may have been a victim at an early age, but I'm an adult now, and you have to take ownership. Yes. And that's the inventory, just rightly dividing, what's right and what's wrong in my life. I think that's an awesome.
And like we're looking at, it shows, it reveals where, if I had a part in it, then I owe an amend to that person. Mm-hmm. And it's, those face-to-face amends. And that was one of the most freeing things that I have done since I've been in recovery, was making those amends to my parents, forgiving them for, the things that they may or may not even realize that they had done, or, or the effect that it had on me, but admitting my part in the things that I had done, or the way I was, and it restores their dignity. We give them back what we stole.
Absolutely.
And I think that's a must because of that guilt and shame. And one of the things I like about the program of AA is that it says we'll no longer wish to shut the door on our past, and God does work out everything for the greater of the good of those who serve him, and it's in the Word.
Yes.
And so I love, today I have a program of recovery, and it is Celebrate Recovery, and it's the steps, but it's through Scripture, and I'm very fortunate, that I have that.
Especially adding the Scripture to, the 12 steps. I think that just enforces it so much, and originally that's, like you said, I mean, they knew God was the higher power, but, they wanted to give people the opportunity. And I know in my life, God is definitely my higher power.
Mine too.
And I give him all the glory for everything that he's done in my life, because I would not, I'm so much like what you say, because there's no way could I do what I do if not for him. And I love that. I love that about him. And I love that about my life now, because for a long time, like you said, when you feel hopeless and you feel beat down, and you've been told, you're never going to do nothing, you're never, when you have the opportunity and God shows up and things just completely turn around, it's like, oh my gosh. I mean, that's one of those aha moments. I was like, okay, God, I really know you're there. And I think that's what people have to come to. And you said, you were just sick and tired. Just sick and tired. There's so many people that are hurting and so many people that are sick and tired. If they'll give it up, just give it up. Take ownership. Take responsibility. And then let Him do something. He will.
Another one of my favorite quotes is, "We only get to be a victim once. After that is a choice." And for me, I don't think recovery is about getting up and fighting this addiction every day. I think it's through surrender every day. And I know it's just for today. Just for today, I surrender and give it all to Him. And I know if I give it all to Him, He's going to keep me sober today. I don't worry about a year from now, but just today. And I know He's got it. I know He does.
Just day by day. And and I tell the girls at the house all the time, even 24 hours is a long time. Do it minute by minute.
If you have to.
If you have to do it minute by minute, that's okay. For this minute, the last 5 minutes, I'm still here. I'm okay. And that's where you have to learn. And surrender is the biggest thing. And when we surrender and we forgive, it releases something in us. Even if the other person doesn't forgive us, it doesn't matter. We have set that forgiveness in action.
Yes.
And that is powerful. That is so powerful.
It's only about, like, if we owe that amen, because the Bible says it, to confess our transgressions one to another and pray so that you may be healed. Mm-hmm. And once we offer that forgiveness, it's up to them if they want to carry that around and, to live with that inside of them. But for us, we've done our part, mm-hmm. And if there's something we can do to make it up to the person, then we're to do that.
Right.
But it's up to them what they do with it from that point on.
Exactly.
And it doesn't make it right. It doesn't make it okay. It's happened, but we get to move forward now. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
That's like we were just talking, though, with our kids. I mean, if we could go back and change everything that we've done, everybody's life would be wonderful.
Right. In a perfect world,
in
yes.
a perfect world,
yes.
It isn't a perfect world. And it's the same way, we can do it with our kids, but we can do it with our family members. We can do it with our friends, people that we have maybe done something against. But, it's like you said, the freedom comes when you ask for forgiveness. It's on them whether they decide to forgive you or not. And that's the most, I think that's the most, because when you were talking about Amazing Grace, that song comes to me, Amazing Grace, my chains are gone. Yes. That's amazing. And that's forgiveness. That's the freedom that we can walk in through that amazing grace.
Yes. And to believe that I had a lot of false pride. I didn't think that I was lovable. And then when I started understanding the Word and understanding, like, He loved me then, He loves me now, the same. And to think that, nothing happens in God's world by mistake. He doesn't want bad things to happen, but it does. And then if we allow Him to work in our lives, everything does come together for the greater of His good, for those who serve Him. And today, I can sit here and say that my addiction is the biggest asset in my life. The things that I went through in my life, definitely struggles. There was lots of struggles. However, today, when I turn around and I see my family in church, and when I see my mom and my dad walk through the doors of the church, I couldn't ask for more,
Yeah.
And that was something like I never thought I would see in my life. And for sometimes it takes that least likely person in the family or whatever for them to see that there's change in their lives. And if they can change, it gives hope,
Yes, absolutely.
And I'm so thankful today.
If you had something that you could say to someone that it just happened to turn on this show, and because of everything that you've been through, and the struggles you face, and now that you've given it to God, but the struggles that you face daily, the people that you run into, the people that you help, just give them some hope today. That's what this show is about. That's why we call it Recovery in Action, because as long as there's breath in the body, there's hope.
Absolutely.
And just offer them hope today.
I think if there was one thing that I could say, would be to to let go of those deepest, darkest secrets, those things that hold you back from living life, those things that have happened to you in your life that you carry guilt and shame over. Once we let go of that, and once we've accepted it is what it is, it was a lesson, not a life sentence, that we can be free of that. That there is hope for everyone, and that just because you've lived in addiction for years, or your alcoholism, or whatever it is, there's more addictions than just the drug addiction.
Oh, absolutely.
That's only a symptom of the problem. But whatever holds you back from living life the way you want to, I believe it's a spiritual disease, and we're spiritually broken people, but work through it. And there's someone that's willing. I'm willing. You know,
I'm willing,
You're
yes.
willing. There's so many people and so many resources now, but it takes work, and we want instant gratification, and that's what we look for. But it takes lots of work, and nothing comes easy. It doesn't last. If it comes easy, it's not worth it.
Right.
But the work that we put forth, the more work and the more we give, the greater it'll be.
Absolutely.
Mm.
Absolutely. And that's one thing that I want to tell everyone, you know, as we've had this show and we're opening, you know, the new year is approaching, and it's just the beginning of the new year. We want you, Charmin and myself, we want you to know there is hope out there, and you do not have to live the way that you live. Is recovery easy? Absolutely not. It'll be one of the hardest things that you've ever done. But it takes a real man or a real woman to step up and say, you know, I have a problem. I need help. And then when you do that, that's the first, it's just like she said, that's the first part of the recovery process. Then you take an inventory. We can help you. There's meetings that you can go to. There's resources that you can go to. There are, stuff is happening in the community. It's not the way it was 5 years ago. It wasn't the way it was 2 years ago. Even last year, things are changing. And there is resources, there is help. And above all, you know, prayer can do wonders for you. And surrendering and doing what you know in your heart is right. Sometimes we get into a place that we feel like that, you know, well, I've done so much. And like she said, there's so much guilt and there's so much shame, and we've done so much that no one trusts me. They may not trust you, but it doesn't matter. If they see you doing better, making life changes, helping people is what it's about. Encouraging people, offering hope. And that's what we want to do today. And I just thank everyone. And I really, really do want everyone to realize that just as much as Charmin has made a change, a life change in her life, it is possible for you too. And we just want to, you are helping now with, just give a little bit of what you're doing in the community on education.
Well, I go to the jail every Tuesday to see the women and talk with the women, and also I have an office at the Frazee Center, and we'll have our hours probably next week out in the newspaper, but it's free services, and I'm willing to do anything I can to help someone. And we also have, the girls there at the House of Ruth. I'm fortunate enough to be working with them now.
Yes,
and
they love you.
And we have the Drug Coalition that anyone in this community can be a part of. It takes everyone, and oftentimes people don't acknowledge or take part in it until it's too late, until a family member they've lost or it affects them.
Yes.
But it takes us all.
Yes. So we want to encourage you today to just find out what you can do in the community, find out where you fit in, and just know that you're loved. I know that sounds crazy, but I'm telling you, you are loved. And we just appreciate everyone and everything that the community, the law enforcement, the police officers, I mean, everyone. We have so much to be thankful for. And God bless you, and have a great new year.